second. All right, everyone get ready. Okay.
Oh, how are you?
You can start.
Hi, how are you?
Do you want to see?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Brooklyn Tea Party for our June 22nd, 2025 meeting. Today we're going to have State Senator Steve Chan, who was recently elected last year, right? Last year for State Senate. It's been a long time since we had a full state senator since Marty Golden, which was, I believe, the last time was 2018 or so.
Thank you.
You know, each and every day we're trying to gain inroads in Brooklyn. We have 3 assemblymen, we have a state senator, city council seat. So let's hope we could keep on continuing and building upon that with Republican and conservative candidates, because at the end of the day, this city is totally out of control. We are in a spiral if we're going to have that new guy running for mayor. What's his name again? Zohan
Mamdani.
Yeah, him. The socialist. Huh? Wouldn't that be grand? Well, we hope we have Eric Adams, oh God help us. But what could you choose? I mean, Curtis, of course, but who knows? In a 4-way race, you never know what could happen. So with that being said, we need to continue on building on that foundation so we could keep on making the city hopefully go back to sanity, because it's totally insane. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for our guest speaker for today, State Senator Steve Chan.
Hi everybody, it certainly is a pleasure to see everybody here today, and certainly a pleasure to be here. Now, I've been trying to be here for a little while, and it's been, you know, just as my luck would have it, it was actually the longest session year in Albany in the last 20 years or so, because of the budget delays by 45 days, and we haven't seen that delayed by that much in 15 years. And there was a lot of components about the budget that I didn't like. But first, I'm going to tell you a joke that I told last night at a party. There was a rabbit and a snake. They were upstate, going to the bathroom together in the forest. And the rabbit said to the snake, "Excuse me, sir, you know, I've never seen a mirror in my life. I don't know what I am. Can you tell me what am I?" And the snake says, "Oh, well, okay. Well, you have beautiful white fur, and you got this fluffy little white tail, you have beautiful pink nose, and you have these beautiful long ears. Wow, you're really beautiful. You're a rabbit." The rabbit being very, very happy to hear that. And the snake says, you know, while I'm at it, can you tell me what I am? I've never seen a mirror either." And the rabbit says, "Well, let's see. You're slimy, you're low to the ground, you slither, you look evil, you're mean, you got this hissy tongue, you got these big fangs. Oh, I know, you're a politician." So anyway, that's just something I heard along the way, right? So the moral of the story is, nobody wants to hear from a politician. Nobody wants to hear from a politician. I look at myself as the neighbor that South Brooklyn chose to represent me, to bring their voices, bring their feelings and sentiments to Albany. And when I went up there, I was very vocal. I think I said more in 2 weeks than my opponent, my former opponent, my predecessor did in 2 years. I wasn't happy about the foundation aid. We got short of $54 million. That's the arts and enrichment music programs for our kids in their schools. That's $54 million. All I know is HOCO had initially suggested the foundation aid formula to be very low. We fixed that, and it became quite high. And she had a lot of $94 million extra dollars to our schools for enrichment programs such as that, after-school programs, music, other activities, art, things that make kids like to go to school. That's very important, because when kids like to go to school, that's half the battle. They're in school. That's the hardest part, get them to school. When she's short, well, she had $597 million. The next thing I know, the Senate 1 budget, there's $54 million missing from that. I'm like, where the hell's the money? Well, apparently it went to other counties, other cities, like Rochester, like Yonkers. But I was very unhappy about that, so I was very outspoken on that. I voted no on that bill, by the way. I said right on the Senate floor, I'm voting no on behalf of South Brooklyn, because that shorts us, this borough, by about $11 million. And you know, we got to fight for every penny, because especially now, we have an influx of non-English speaking students. They're here. I get it, right? Some of them are stealing in education, some of them are not. Regardless, I do believe that they deserve an education, and we do have to help them, but it makes it a little bit harder when we're shorted the money. So next year, we're going to fight for that some more. We're going to try to increase the foundation aid. I'm a steadfast proponent of education, as some of you folks are having. I volunteered in our schools for 10 years as a member of the school leadership team, as well as the Title I chairperson in PS 112. I was the PTA president over at Kristen McCullough Middle School. And that's how I got into politics, unfortunately. I was just a happy PTA president in McCullough, dealing with 1,000 Title moms and dads. And if you know that school, that's what they are. They're all Title moms and dads. So they kind of mentioned me to the GOP and they approached me. And I said, no, I'm not running for this. I'm retired. You guys know I'm a cop 27 years. In fact, I was a patrol supervisor right here in this precinct for 3 years. I said, no, I'm retired. And, this is like Shawshank Redemption. I got out of jail after doing 27 years. I'm enjoying my time. But the straw that broke the camel's back to me was when Eric Adams, unfortunately, a friend of mine, I'm sorry to say, shut down James Madison High School to put the illegals in. And that infuriated me so much. That's the day that I threw my name in the hat, and a year later, here I am.
Really?
Yeah. That's the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Yeah, well, I knew a lot of kids that went from our middle school to that school. Those kids need an education. They want to go to school. Some of them need to eat lunch in school. Some of them, their parents have to go to work. They can't stay home and babysit the kids. So, the point I'm getting at is there's a lot wrong with our state. Slowly, in the last 7 years, when we lost the Republican majority in the Senate to the Democrats, everything was on a downhill spiral with one-party rule. When you have a governor, the Senate, and the Assembly, one party, everything passes. Every ridiculous law that you can think of. We have a senator in our Senate. Every single law she introduces protects the criminals. And we have another senator. Every single law she introduces protects the illegal immigrant. In fact, she's so proud of it, she tells everybody she feels the need to remind us every day that her parents are illegal immigrants.
Wow.
Great.
Nice.
Great, that's fine. But you know what? Be grateful. Why can't you be grateful? I'm grateful. But you know what? I stood up on the Senate when another senator said, we have to put, he held a press conference in the hall and said, we have to protect the immigrants. They're immigrants just like us. And I screamed from the other side of the hall. I said, hey, Senator, are you speaking for me? Because I'm the immigrant. I'm the real immigrant. Senator, can you tell me why my wife's brothers and sisters have been waiting for 14 years for an immigration visa while everybody else skips the line? Why doesn't my family or my wife tell them, they're from Malaysia, by the way, why wouldn't I tell them to go across to Mexico or Canada and walk across the border? Why wouldn't I tell them to get a visa, come over here, and just overstay your visa? Because we do things the right way. Do I believe there should be a path to citizenship? Maybe, maybe not. Legal residency? Yes. Who? Well, I know plenty of people in my neighborhood in South Brooklyn. I know families that came from Ecuador, Guatemala, China, wherever it is that they're from. They're here 30 years. They raised a family. They've never been in trouble with the law. They're humble. They're nice. When you see them, when you're walking your dog or walking down the street, they're nice to you. These are the people that's not peeing on the side of the street. They're not breaking glass bottles. It's not 3 beers and it's stupid time. Those families, I believe, should have a path to permanent residency, not citizenship. We should also have a path, just like Singapore, just like Hong Kong, just like Japan. They have contracts where a pizzeria can have these recruiting agencies to go to, let's say, Guatemala. Let's use them for an example. They can have a contract and you work minimum wage for 5 years here for my pizzeria. When that contract is up, if you don't get it renewed, or if somebody else doesn't hire you, you return to your country of origin. That is, it is. It's a little different than our H-1B visa program. We do have such a program. Our H-1B, right, enables us to hire people from overseas. And by the way, when you see an Indian doctor out there, right, that came on H-1B, those are the best in India. They're not your run-of-the-mill doctors. Those doctors their best, and that's how come they got hired to come here.
Dominic, the medical institute too.
Yeah, okay, so I don't knock those, and Indian children are just incredible students. You watch the National Spelling Bee? My daughter was a champion 3 times in her school. However, right, she's nothing comparing to those guys. But anyway, so yeah, do I believe there should be some kind of a path to permanent residency? Yes. Do I believe that ICE should come in here and get rid of our illegal criminal aliens? Absolutely. Absolutely. These are the guys that's not humble to be here. They're not grateful to be here. They're not here to be your friends. They're not here to work hard. They're here to take. They're here to steal. They're here to destroy. Laken Riley didn't have to die. We let him go. So I'm absolutely against New York State being a sanctuary state. I'm against, as a police officer, many times we have criminal aliens that we couldn't even notify ICE. You have to let them go. And it pains the police officers to notice and say, what are you talking about? I remember I was still a boss on the job in the Brooklyn South ECT unit. It's like a crime scene unit under the 6-1 precinct. When I saw the new bail reform laws, me and my boss, we thought it was a joke. And any police officer at that time in 2019 could have told you that this was going to happen. This was going to happen. Chaos. People doing everything and getting away with it. They're getting let go. So there's a lot of things wrong with our society lately. We have this influx of homeless. And where do you think those homeless people came from? It's the criminals we've been letting out on bail reform. Years ago, I always knew, interacting with the homeless people down in the Bowery, down on Allen Street, Pike Street, that a lot of those guys were like Shawshank. They got let out of jail after doing 25 years. They have no means to make a living. They become homeless. But just because they're homeless doesn't mean that there's some poor soul that ran into trouble and ran into hard times. That's far and few in between. Most of them are former career criminals. And likewise, I grilled Adams in Albany back in February when it was time for the budget talks. We called him up there. I got a chance to question him for a few minutes, about 5 minutes. I said, well, what's your sense of reasoning? Why are you building a homeless shelter 15 feet away from the subway at a time when we see people being burned alive, pushed onto the tracks? These people get pissed off. They get kicked out of the homeless shelter. They're going to go into the train. They're going to see the first kid they see or first elderly person they see and push them right over the tracks. What is your sense of reasoning? And I said to him, if you watch the clip, I said to him, right now you're retrofitting a storage unit in the Bronx into a 2,200 bed migrant shelter. Why don't you give it to our homeless first? I asked him that, I'll tell you why. Because him, de Blasio, and their cronies and their buddies found ways of turning homelessness into a huge business. And I even told him, it costs you $22,000 a month to service one homeless person. Why wouldn't you just give the guy $6,000 a month, save the 18 grand, right? And let them take care of themselves. They can do it on 6,000.
You can outbid a hotel.
The reason is that 16 grand is going somewhere else. That 18 grand is going somewhere else. It's going to somebody else's pockets along the way. Imagine a tree growing out of the ground. It's called a homeless tree, everybody. Right? And the fruit is money. And everybody's picking that fruit along the way. And the homeless is the one that actually gets the least of that money growing out of that tree. And that's some of the problems that we have. Another problem we have is all of a sudden now the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys. There was a bill that we voted on in the last few days of the session this year. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It removes the power of citizens' arrest from you. I looked at it, I said, that's crazy. No, we're not going to remove citizens' arrest. I voted no. Every Republican senator voted no. About 5 or 6 moderate Democrat senators voted no. But the bill passed. Let's see if HOCO signs it. Let's see if it passes Assembly. I don't think it's going to pass Assembly. I don't think it did in the last couple of days. I didn't check on it. For some reason, it was always the other way around. The Senate had more common sense than the Assembly. Now it seems like it's the other way around. Like with Otis. Oh, I shouldn't say his name. A senator, right, that accident on Ocean Parkway where that female mowed down and killed the family of 3.
Yeah.
Well, he wants to punish the car. He wants to punish the car. Just like when there's a mass shooting, the left wants to punish the gun, right? He wants to slow the cars down. So if there's a car that gets caught running a red light or a speeding camera in a multitude of violations over the last, let's say 18 months, a certain amount, he wants to slow the car down. He wants the car to have a limit in it so that it can't go over 25 miles per hour. Strangely, a few bills before that he had mentioned, it was in regards to reckless driving. What he said was a reckless driver is always going to be a reckless driver, no matter what car he's driving or where he's driving. So I said, you know, you mentioned that a reckless driver is always going to be a reckless driver. Likewise, a speeding driver is always going to be a speeding driver. He can put that car in somebody else's name. He can rent the car. He can drive somebody else's car. He's still going to be a speeding driver. You slowing that car, all you're doing is punishing that car, and it's useless. We got to revamp it. We got to put a fine on that driver. Arrest the owner of the car, and get the information. Who was driving this car going through this light all this time? Right? Make his insurance rates a little higher. Right? So there's a multitude of things that we can do to slow people down. But slowing the car down is definitely not the answer. There's going to be times when you're going to need that speed to avoid accidents. There's times when you're evading somebody evil. There's times in emergency that you're going to need the speed in the car. It's just not the right thing to do. What's to stop somebody from putting the car in his wife's name? Now he doesn't have the car. He's driving his wife's car. Still speeding. So there's a lot of things wrong. And what we need, I see what we need. We need a Republican governor in the short term. That's what we absolutely need. I had lunch with Elise Stefanik the other day in Manhattan. It was a very powerful lunch with Curtis Sliwa and Robert Hord. And
Definitely gonna run, huh?
and it's a powerhouse of people. Now, yeah, in fact, I was asked to be on the host committee. Mike Lawler is also a great candidate. They seem to think that he might do a little bit better, faring against Hochul. Right? But I can guarantee you two things. There are positives. One, that in 2027, Hochul is not going to be our governor. She is just a poor leader. She has no idea what she's doing. She doesn't she's not touching our community. She's not feeling it. She's not listening to it.
She got reelected. She didn't get elected.
Oh, she's doing.
She got reelected because she was lieutenant governor.
Yeah. She's not going to be our
She
next
has got to
governor.
resign.
And the other
Resigned, that's why she's out of touch.
Absolutely.
She wasn't.
And the other thing is that Eric Adams is not going to be our next mayor. So now we have two choices for mayor, right? So I befriended some people in Albany, females. It seems like I'm a pretty popular guy. So. And I speak to them, and I said, hey, tell me, I wasn't here, but you guys were. The things they say about Cuomo, is it true? Every last one of these females told me, yes, it is.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Okay. So we have to think about it, right? Who has betrayed us in the past? Who let all these bad guys out of jail? Who signed bail reform? Right? Who sent all our beloved old folks to the senior homes? And who gave $16,000 each to the illegal immigrants when they didn't get COVID relief?
Cashless bill.
$16,000 each. I know families that collected $64,000, $48,000 just because there was, let's say, 3 illegal immigrants working with ITIN, individual taxpayer ID number. Right? They got paid $48,000. I didn't get $48,000, did you? Right? I got maybe $2,000, $3,000, right? But that's, by the way, that's a lot of these cars that are unregistered, uninsured. That's where they came from. When he gave them the money, they went out and bought cars. Soon they couldn't afford the insurance anymore, and they dropped the insurance. And then now you have a bunch of cars out there. It's estimated that about 40% of the cars in South Brooklyn are not insured.
Wow.
And that's why your insurance rates, chances are if you get into an accident, the other car's not insured. There's a very high chance. So your insurance will have to eat it, and that's why you're paying $5,000 a year. So there's so many things wrong with our state the way it is. We keep trying to tell them, you shut down Indian Point nuclear power plant. If you look at my Facebook page about the heat wave that's coming, my little girls, 2 little girls, they're pretty good students, together they did a 6-year study of the ecological effects of the Indian Point nuclear power plant. And my older one, when she was 10 years old in 2020, saw today coming. that we're gonna be short on electricity.
Wow.
25 to 34% short, and she was 100% correct. Me as a senator now, I speak to the energy people, and that's what they're telling me. We didn't have a backup plan. We have no new sources of electricity. We're still buying it from a company named Entergy, which owned Indian Point. Only this time, they have to deliver it through the lines from Ohio, Pennsylvania, Canada. We're paying the same company double what they were charging us when they had IPAC under operation. And the reason why they closed it, Cuomo gave them the ultimatum, modify your plan or get out. So they said, okay, screw you, get out. Right? They did a huge research. They hired a company called Enercon to conduct a survey of what needs to be done to modify Indian Point nuclear power plant to make it come into compliance with the environmental laws that we have. Can be done. $4 billion, 5 years. Entergy says, no. Okay, we'll shut it down, thank you. So, all right, so we got into a
The double size of it.
pissy match. Well, they had to build modern water cooling towers instead of using the water from the Hudson River to cool the reactors. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. So we get into a hissy fit match with Entercon, so they left. And now we're short 1,100 jobs in the Buchanan, New York area, high quality jobs, 10,000 jobs countrywide that was linked to Indian Point, and we're paying almost double for what we did about 6 years ago for electricity. And there's more coming from this. There's a war on natural gas. You know that, right?
Yeah.
By 2030, right, they're gonna start shutting down the gas on us. They're not even, and we were fighting it, we're debating it, we held press conferences, and I don't think it's gonna happen if you ask me, right? So I say don't worry yet, and they won't be able to turn off the gas.
It's only for new
These are pipe
construction.
dreams.
Only for new construction.
No.
You can't shut down the old ones.
No, yes they are.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Psychotic New York.
Trust me, what they're gonna do, so they started introducing bills that says, okay, do we need the homeowner's consent if we're gonna shut down the gas in zones?
No.
Right? And the bill passed, the answer is no. So that's phase one. It's just like a casino in Metropolitan Park. We didn't pass a bill to build a casino. We passed a bill to rezone the parklands. So it comes in phases. You see that in the last few days of the session, they introduced about 500 bills. In the middle of the night, we were so tired, we didn't even know what we were passing. We were so sick of debating. We didn't have time to debate it anymore. And I was just, at the end, I was just voting down on the last one. Because it was going to pass anyway. It was going to pass anyway. They vote like a wolf pack. Even the moderates were voting with the far left. So that was a big problem. So they will start to shut down the gas, and if you ask me, they're going to try to shut it down in Manhattan first, because they preached it.
Where are they gonna get the electricity to replace?
That's what I said. They said, well, we're going to have green energy, green this, green that, we're going to have windmills, we're going to have solar, we're going to have this, we're going to have that. Right? So we passed a law to ban like plastics in packaging, right? But the same plastics are on solar panels.
They pay gas.
Natural gas. They're trying to put Con Ed and National Grid out of business for some reason. They hate them. So they're gonna,
It's crazy.
I don't know, early in the year, we passed a bill to fine these fossil fuel companies for what they've done to our environment for the last 100 years. But how the hell do you know what they did to us 100 years ago?
Make it up.
You know that, right? Did you hear about that? So we passed a bill to fine the fossil fuel companies, well, excuse me, American fossil fuel companies in the last 100 years for the damage they did. So we said, wait, so what about BP? Are we going to find them? They said no. And what about Lukoil? Are we going to find them? They said no. What about, these foreign-owned companies? We're not going to find them. We're only going to find Exxon. Right? We're only going to find, well, Shell is not, it is now, but it wasn't an American company. So it was formerly not an American company, it was a Dutch company. So what are you going to do? You're going to fine them for, how do you figure out, right, what they owe us in the last, let's say, 30 years? They said, oh, we're going to let DEC figure that out. Well, who the hell is DEC? How the hell do they know? Were they here 100 years ago? So those are some of the ridiculous bills that they've been pushing through, and they're trying to push through.
Trying to destroy capitalism.
I don't know what they're doing. I learned a lot in my first 5 months up there, you can, our financial records are public information. You can take a look at it, right? If you take a look at the Democrats and the Republicans, it looks like none of the Republicans really need a job. But if you take a look at the Democrats, this is their job. So that's the problem right there. And I don't think our founding fathers meant for our country to be ran by career politicians. It is meant to be ran by citizens, neighbors, people like me, people like you. So with that said, that's what I encourage. I encourage people to come out and appeal to the masses. Right? When I ran my election, people looked at me. A lot of them didn't know my name. They said, that guy did what? He worked in a sweatshop? That guy did what? He was a cop for 27 years. He was a U.S. Marine. Well, I'm voting for that guy. That's all they knew, that guy. So, a lot of people here, and your friends, and your family, they're running a campaign right now. They don't even know it yet because they're building themselves a resume. There is that guy. There's another Steve Chan out there that can appeal to Democrats, Republicans, and moderates. A bunch of Democrats voted me into office, not just Republicans and conservatives. There's, 13,000 registered Republicans? I got 30,000 votes. So most of my vote didn't come from the Republican Party. Assuming they all voted, that's only 13,000. Assuming every conservative voted, that's only another 2,700 or so. So 15,000 to 17,000, maybe more, had to come from the Democrats. And somebody, you yourself or somebody you know, are going to appeal to the masses. And I'm very, very happy to see that South Brooklyn is finally coming to their senses. They realize that we need people that has common sense. Right? We were a peaceful neighborhood, we were a great neighborhood, but systematically, people maybe they're jealous out of jealousy, whatever it is, they're trying to pick our neighborhood apart. So now we're very fortunate to have some great elected officials working together right now in South Brooklyn. There's, of course, myself. There's, first of all, I'll say this before I name any more names. Right? I don't agree with every elected 100% of the time, but I find myself agreeing with most of their ideology. And when that happens, yes, we can work together. If I agree with 60, 70% of what they're doing, that's great. We can work together. Susan Schwan likes Cuomo. I don't like Cuomo. I know what she's trying to do. She's trying to help Cuomo get rid of Zandani. Okay, I'll give her that. I won't interfere, right? But we agree that our neighborhood is a mess. We agree that the crime is rampant. We agree that our children is being cheated in the school system. So even Bill Colton, Lester Chang, David Carr, Sam Parazzolo in Staten Island, Andrew Lanza, we all see eye to eye on those issues. In South Brooklyn and Staten Island right now, even Jessica Spanton. I've been working with her, right? So I got up to Albany, I picked up the bill that everybody's been ignoring for 2 years to restore the 20-year retirement for the cops. Me and Jessica walked into every office, we pushed it, we told them why it's important to give the cops back, this is what they need. You already defunded them, people hate them, morale is down, nobody wants to come on the job, and we pushed it through. They got their 20-year retirement back. And that's only the start. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get their qualified immunity back. Yeah. We're tying up their hands.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They can't even punch somebody in the head. I did that plenty of times as a cop. I was a pretty active cop. And I was a police officer for 10 years. I arrested 200 people. That's a pretty good average. And I only got one CCRB. Right? I yelled at a black kid. I cursed at him. I did. So when people heard that, when my opponent threw that out, they said, that's all he's got? That's great. I'm voting for him. So yeah, there are cops out there that are great cops, right? And we need to support those guys. I brought the NYPD's Agent Jade up to Albany. I honored them. I gave them a resolution. Right? And these cops make it easy for the other legislators to defend them. We can say, what the hell are you talking about? These cops are great. They're helping us every day. Right? Look at Detective Win Jung Lu and his parents. Right? What a sacrifice that family made to our community. And from day one, me and my cops were there for that family. And nobody saw that. I was never on the news, but I'm the guy that brought food to that family for the next 6 months, every day from my cousin's restaurant. Stories like that you never hear. The news is not going to say, this restaurant, Ho Wong Chinese restaurant, donated 6 months worth of lunches and dinners to the Win Jung Lu family. They're not going to say that. They're not going to tell you that. But I knew that, because I'm the guy that brought it from there to the family every day. The news is not going to show you cops out there shoveling their driveway in the winter. free of snow. They're not gonna show you that. But my cops was out there shoveling their snow. They still do. Right? So the little things that people don't see along the way, it's very important. That's why in my campaign, you rarely see me on the stage. I don't speak a lot on stage. I'm up close and personal. Last night at my fundraiser, I spent about 5 minutes on the stage and 4 hours on the floor, shaking everybody's hands, listening to them, talking to them. And that's what it takes in the local level, elected officials arena. We get up close, we get personal, we let people talk, we listen to them. It's the same conversation as I'm walking my daughter's dog and the neighbor's complaining to me. You see those guys in the scooter riding around here lately? It's the same conversation. All we're doing is bringing that conversation up to Albany and bringing it to the police department. The police have been great, by the way, in removing these scooters. There's thousands and thousands of them. I personally went to the locker room, the 6-8 precinct and 6-2 precinct, and it's completely piled, roof to floor, ceiling to floor in scooters. They have no space for it.
Yeah, be careful that battery's in.
So, yeah, there was also, right, we also passed a legislation in the Senate that forbids the sale of mopeds in New York City. It's in the assembly. I don't know if it's in the House over there. I don't know if the governor's going to sign it. Those things need to be controlled. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. But the important thing is we have to get a Republican governor, a Republican mayor, and a Republican Senate. All this time, New York State's Republican Senate was the majority 65 out of the last 75 years. And that was the saving grace of New York. When we lost that, that's when everything went like this. And that's why we need to work hard, we need to get it back. I'm here. Queens is ready to turn red, I know that. I got a few good people out there, they're getting ready to enter the fray. There's a guy like me, there's other Steve Chans out there. Yes, there is. We gotta find those guys. We gotta find those guys, get them out there. Get them on the ballot.
Steve, can you take some questions from?
Of course.
Senator.
Just
Yes,
like
sir.
Nicole Malliotakis has become our voice, even though she's only one person among the whole city, her voice resonates all the way to the Bronx, to Staten, everywhere. You, my friend, are becoming the same thing.
Thank you.
You are our voice in the Senate,
You know why they love me in the...
and they're listening to you.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you noticed, but whenever we have a press conference, they stick me on the podium because, and I don't like this, right? Because I find myself defending white people. We'll get back to that in a minute. They love putting me up there because I can say things that they can't. Apparently nobody wants to hear from a white Christian male or female Republican. They get attacked. Well, I'm not that guy.
Always flip it around. Yeah.
I told a story in the Senate of how our family was here in the days of the railroad, went back to China, couldn't get back in again until 1968, and that was because of a white man named Kemp, who was an executive at the Singer Sewing Machine Company, who befriended my uncle, who was working in the factory as a tool and die maker, manufacturing parts for Singer. That guy said to my uncle, would you like to come live in Binghamton and work for us? We'll bring your whole family over there. How great was that guy in 1968 America? A white man says to a Chinese man in Colombia, would you like for me to bring your family to America? So how are you going to tell me that there's systemic racism? Because if there was, my uncle wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't be here today. That's our family's second footstep in America, 1968 Binghamton, New York. And that's how we come to be here. My uncle petitioned my father to come here, and we got here in 1977. And I would love to, I'm still tracking this guy down, by the way. All I have is a name and a company. Singer Sewing Machines, Binghamton, and Mr. Kemp. I did a FOIA request for Immigration and Naturalization, INS it was called back then. And I want to get the paperwork and see if I can find that man or his descendants and tell them, look, you know, it's your father or your grandfather, they brought my family over, I'm the state senator now, right? And that's the story. You know, I grew up over here with Irish families, Scandinavian, Italians, between Bay Ridge and Bensonhurst. I played softball with them. These people walked me along the way. I grew up pretty much like an orphan. However, these families guided me along the right direction. I'm not a gangster, I'm not a killer, I'm not dead. It's because of them. So how can you tell me there's systemic racism? Anytime I hear the word systemic, I link it to the word blame. I link it to the word envy.
Link it to the word Democrat.
And I tell my daughters, don't you ever come home and tell me somebody did something to you because you're Chinese. Maybe they did and maybe they didn't, but if you do that, they just slow you down. You just hit the bump in the road that you can't overcome. I never stop to blame anybody. Of course I face racism. Of course I face obstacles. Right? Never let it slow me down. Didn't blame anybody, I just kept going. I sped up, and that's the way to do it. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I wish that you spoke beautifully, and we love you. And I'm a local Brooklynite. I have my own soup kitchen. I take people out of jail. I deal with the homeless people. And well, my question to you is very simple. I'm a businessman that knows budgets and helps people with the vacates, and I fight your 312 government agencies that try to screw our local residents. I have 3 questions for you. Question number 1, I love you, but you have a $250 billion state budget. You have a $119 billion city budget. Have you reviewed that budget like Doge? Because I have. Just alone with the government agencies of duplicity, you can remove between $4 and $6 billion that you can give back. How simple it is to stop the homeless issue and create, we have 80,000, like you said, of our own homeless people. And you guys done nothing about it. All you've done is throw money other ways. If you would have done what Doge and Congress who are very smart, can sit down and cut down over $50 billion. You know the ways, like you were saying it before. We have problems with food kitchens, soup kitchens, education, private education, health care. You guys are complaining about the immigrants, which I'm against, illegal immigration, but you're complaining about, your crime is not down. We had 2,004 murders last year, 1,900 murders. You guys are so excited that crime and murder is down. 3,900 people were killed.
I'm not excited about it.
I know.
Yeah.
My problem with you, Mr. Senator, is I love you. And I can complain across the board because when I do get to city council, and I haven't seen you really support the Republicans. I know you're friends with Simcha Felder. I know you're friends with, you can laugh whatever you
I
want.
wouldn't call us friends, but
Carmen Yeager, the biggest crook.
I wouldn't call us friends either.
Okay, and I'm friendly with Simcha Atkinson, who I fight with all the time.
Yeah.
Here's my problem. I don't see you supporting our Republican little people. But I'm going to give you credit for everything, Senator, because I like you.
Yeah.
You're a soldier, you're a man of the people, you've come up from the streets. You're a policeman. Why must our policemen work overtime ever? You have 45 to 50,000 policemen.
We don't.
Put them on 8, we have.
We have 31,000.
But you have so many sitting in your offices doing nothing, that you actually have 45,000 people if you put them properly to use. Give them only 8-hour shifts and not overtime shifts. You're wasting money on $200,000-$300,000 on a guy when your policeman should be making 120, 150 grand a year. But if you divide it up properly, maintain their hours properly, a good businessman and senator from all people, I know Mr. Adams, the police officer, you are the smartest of them all. You should change that system, not let it get away. I know you as a policeman over here, I think you ticketed me twice.
No, I didn't, but go ahead.
I know.
I didn't like giving tickets.
That girl who ran over the person and mowed him down, who is not a reckless driver in this room?
Correct.
Including you.
Correct.
I'm not knocking.
No, I'm not reckless. I promise you that.
We all I'm the greatest driver on the planet, and I know that I've gone through yellow lights or made a right on red or sped up when I couldn't slow down. If you want, you can blame it across the board. I'm disappointed that the girl killed somebody because she doesn't intend to do it. And I've handled 3 cases after that where people actually made accidents, and the city Gonzales is making us go through felony because of that one case. You have to stop this. But Senator, my problem with you is that homeless shelter on Taft Avenue that you showed up. Remember that homeless shelter on Taft Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. Opened up. A second one opened up. Now a third one is opened up. You've not come back to help him. You've not given them an idea. You've spoken, and Lester Chang, the biggest wacko, I know you're his friend, the man just lies out of his mouth. Now, I came up with a plan how we did. We just hired a lawyer. I'm a DOB representative as well as I have an architectural firm, and I'm going to law school. And I've done hundreds of thousands of administrative law. I can shut that place down myself. You as a senator can have it shut down tomorrow. Why have you avoided it and not gone back and forth and screamed and howled? I'm not knocking you, Senator. But I'm telling you, when all the politicians talk and you preach of all the problems that are going on in this city, I don't wanna hear you tell me the problems. I want you to tell me what solutions you've come up with. I want you to tell me that you saw that $400 billion in budget and you checked it out like Doge and you're able to knock that down, because I promise you, if I become city councilman, my people here don't help me, but it's okay. When I become city council, because I haven't had any support, and I'm the only Republican, and our Republican committee, your friend Barsimian, takes money and supports the Democrats. When you quoted me all those Republican names, all supporting Democrats across the board. What I'm telling you now is, I see what you're trying to do, but you're playing a game that I don't think should be right to be played. And I'm telling you now, you, from all the new people, have the power to stop them right in their tracks. Don't tell me you have a majority. You can get up and scream and holler, because when I become city councilman,
Okay, so what's your first question?
my question is, I'm going to give you two across the board. I want to know how you're going to change the homeless issue, because there's a solution, simple, how to fix the homeless problem in this city. 80,000 of our people.
Yeah, okay, so, okay, with
Not
that,
opening up homeless shelters in Borough.
okay, with that said, I'm gonna go to part one of that question, right? The reason why I haven't been back over here is because it is actually not my district. You know, the ethics is that we
But
don't.
you came. You
I
should
came
come.
at a time when Simca was running for city council,
Against me.
and there was
Democrat
no,
against the Republican.
he really didn't represent the district and the people of
And you guys support
that district.
You supported
I didn't
Simca.
support him one bit.
You're
Okay.
I love you.
I did not support Simca one bit, he's a Democrat.
I know that, your
Okay.
representative that was there did support it, that's okay.
My
I don't
representative,
need-
who?
You had, you sent somebody there, at the time, to that homeless shelter over there.
I went over there.
I know, but somebody
No,
else.
no, no.
It's okay.
I was there, I know
You're
who was there.
mistaken.
I
Anyway,
know who was there.
who?
No, I was there, I know.
Yeah, I didn't send a representative, it was me, okay?
Yep.
That was at a time when the neighbors needed me, I was there. Just like the neighbors down at Sheepshead Bay and Coyle Street, I was there when they didn't have a senator.
Yes, he
But now they
was.
do have a senator. That's Sam Sutton. I get it, right? But I'm not gonna go into his district and stir the pot, just like when artists wouldn't come into my district and stir the pot, right?
You have to, this is your city.
I get it, right? So now, there is 31,000 police officers right now, not 45, not 50. We were never at 50. At a time, I guess, I want to say 1998, we had about 41,000 police officers, and even then, it still wasn't enough to put a police officer on every train. But times was better. The cops' hands were untied. They can do a lot more with what they had. And that's why back then, around 98, 99, you can actually get on the train at 3 o'clock in the morning and not worry. Next. What was the second question?
Our budget.
Our budget, yes. I did go through it with a fine tooth comb. It was about 1,000 pages, over and over again. They kept changing it. Again, we do not have the Senate majority. We have the minority. I was
Show
very-
us transparency of 250, I'll
Yeah.
give you a couple of
Well,
programs.
I'll give you a
plaque.
prime example, right?
Moving plaques, just to move plaques, you give out a half
I'll
of
give
a
you,
million dollars.
I'll give you a prime example, okay? I just mentioned that about 4 weeks ago. I stood up and I said, you guys shorted us $54 million in foundation aid, right? What, 2, maybe 3 days ago? Hoko said, hey, guess what? I found $50 million to help defend these illegals. Oh, geez, now I know where the $54 million went. I did raise the questions on those. But do I have the power to stop it? No, I don't. No, I don't. Who does? Andrea Stewart Cousins. Is she going to? No, she isn't. No, she isn't. But I tell you what, I did stop. I tell you why I did stop, okay? When Carl Heastie and the Assembly side, realizing that this budget was going to be delayed by so much, and the Democrats were looking for their paychecks because we weren't getting paid, he tried to introduce an extended bill to include money to pay the legislators. Hoko says, I'm not going to pass that, right? If the people of South Brooklyn didn't vote me in place, he would have stuck it in there, the Senate would have stuck it in there, Hoko would have vetoed it, and they would have overrode her veto. But because I was in there, they know they can't override her veto. So the people of South Brooklyn broke up the supermajority in the Senate, and that's a start. That's leverage right there. When they needed something passed really, really bad at the end, I got something passed. I got something passed. The Metropolitan Park Bill, right? Steve Cohen sent his people. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Steve Cohen sent his people down here to lobby me every day because I was the guy that voted no in the committee, right? I know what they're thinking. They're thinking Las Vegas. They're thinking Amsterdam. What they're going to get is Bangkok. They're going to get the Philippines. They're going to get human trafficking. They're going to get drug trafficking, extortion, loan sharking, you name it. It's there. I told Steve Cohen I don't like the 8% component of your casino. That's why I voted no. So, and I was a Cities One committee ranking member. I am still. I voted no. So he was afraid that he's not going to get enough votes in the Senate, so he lobbied me every day. But you know what he mentioned to me? He says, Steve, look, we're talking 28,000 union jobs for the next 4 years. We're talking 6,000 non-union jobs permanent. I said, what about the parking? He says, we're going from 9,000 to 12,000 parking spaces. I said, what about the security? He says, we're hiring a security force of 2,000 to work that 24/7 on. How much money are you spending? He says, 8 billion. I said, what have you run short? He says, I'm prepared to spend 16. So I said, okay. At a time when our plumbers, our electricians in our neighborhood, our carpenters are getting laid off, they're working about half the year.
Why? We're busy.
Wait, no, we're not. We're not. Because we're chasing all these companies out of here. They just got another tax hike, right? Did I vote yes on the tax hike? No, I didn't. Right? So I'm only one vote. The Republican senators only 22 votes. But it's still, the Democrats still doesn't have the supermajority. So anyway, back to Steve Cohen, right? A lot of our guys rely on those jobs. Well, I just guaranteed that for the next 5 years, they're not going to get laid off. Right? The unions think that the Republican senators are God. They're very happy. They're going to send representatives down to our district for new guys to join the union. The steam fitters, the carpenters, the rockers, the masons, the electricians, the plumbers, both Long Island and City. Local 1, Local 3, all these guys, they're super happy, and they're very happy with us, and they're going to send people down here to give our district jobs. In the last 6 months, I convinced my friend who owns a defense contractor, 3388 manufacturing company, who manufactures ballistic panels for the United States Marines. I convinced him to move to 39th Street and 7th Avenue to our district. And he created 300 not minimum wage jobs. And these are permanent jobs. These are defense contractor jobs. And everything they use is 100% made in USA. And that product, I made a Facebook post. All those products are going to the United States Marines. Can you get any better than that? So those are some of the things that I'm doing out there while I am powerless to stop this nonsense spending. I am very vocal about it.
What's the mood of our Senate about the ICE deportation raids?
So the Republican and the Common Sense Caucus and the moderate Democrats have no issues with this. ICE is not going to break down some family's door and just drag everybody out and throw them in a van and send them back to where they came from. That's not what's happening. They're concentrating on the illegal, criminal aliens, the people that would otherwise go on to hurt other people. We all seen it, right? It used to be 30 years ago, a lot of the illegals were humble. They were grateful to be here. They are no longer that. They're belligerent. They're criminals. We're talking countries that, how many people remember what the Mario boat lift was? Cuba, 1980, right? That's what the movie Scarface was about. They emptied their jails onto our soil. And these are the people that we're dealing with. Now, we got to get rid of these people. And God knows that, look, we just bombed Iran, right? That should have been done, by the way, that should have been done 45 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
1980, 1981, that's when it should have been done. But, okay, that's the past. We just bombed them. How many sleeper cells are here right now that Biden let in?
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, that's what I want to know. 9/11, I was down there, I was covered in soot. I was cursing everybody out. I was. I'm like, how the hell did this happen?
That was it.
That was in school.
I mean, I was in the Persian Gulf, man.
I
Right?
right?
Over here, I felt more danger than I did over there. And, I mean, yeah, how the hell did this happen? And it's going to happen if we don't straighten it out right now. Let's get rid of these people. How many sleeper cells are right here in New York City?
That's right.
Report now, ask questions later.
How many judges are clogging up the works every minute?
That's another job of the New York State Senate, right? So I see the list of appointees that Hochul wants to put in our courts. And if you do a quick Google search of them, they're all activist judges. Of course, I vote no to every single last of them, whether it's to the commissioner of the DEC, to somebody who works for the DEP. I vote no to every last one of them because I know their background, right? But, you know, they outvote us. They vote like a pack of wolves. In my entire 6 months in Albany, I only seen some people break ranks on the Democratic side on a handful of occasions. Otherwise, they vote like a pack of wolves.
Senator Champ?
Yes, sir.
On these electric car mandate that was passed for 2035 for New York State, is that still going to be in play with the Trump talking about the California thing? Because we can't buy a brand new gas-powered vehicle in 2035 at a dealership. It has to be electric according to these morons.
Yes, it passed, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And also in there is the school bus mandate, too, 100% green. They're 100% green. Even Maine, even Rhode Island, when they pass similar laws, it's 75% green. We need gasoline backup. When we have the next blackout, we need natural gas to run generators. We need fossil fuel. Granted, the gas station's not going to be pumping during the blackout, but the natural gas is flowing. They want to, create a war on this natural gas, and it's just not feasible. It's not feasible. You can't frack, you can't harvest. So I think they're going to realize when the time comes in 2030 that it can't be done. Yes, sir.
New York State is going bankrupt. In fact, they probably would have already been bankrupt if it wasn't for federal money that came in from COVID. You know, Florida has a bigger population than New York State, and they have half the budget.
Yes. We mentioned that. I mentioned the fact that, let's see, what did I say? 19 states run their entire year's budget on less than one of our extenders, meaning.
And on top of that, we're driving away our tax base.
Absolutely.
Businesses, wealthy people, they're leaving.
Absolutely.
It's hopeless.
And you got this guy Zamdani saying, I want to make the MTA free. Well, let me tell you something, it's already free. Nobody ever pays.
Right.
I know MTA workers.
That's why
They come to
congestion
me.
pricing. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, the only solution, I think, is that more power has to be given to the people. There's too much power concentrated in the state and in the city.
They want to take away power from the people.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
already,
Yes,
New York City's run
right.
like a dictatorship.
Yeah, they want to make it illegal for you to make a citizen's arrest. So when somebody breaks into your house, you can't even make a citizen's arrest. To get something straight, by the way, and they're going to try to go after this. New York State does have what is called the Castle Doctrine. Is everybody familiar? There's a lot of confusion with this. There's a standard ground law, like Florida, right? If somebody picks on you, right, they're trying to hurt you, you don't have an obligation to run away from that guy. You can defend yourself right there and there. Right? Whatever physical force that he's using against you, you can use a little bit more to fight back. So now, New York State has a little different thing. We have what is known as the Castle Doctrine. We don't have stand your ground. Stand your ground, so if I'm out in the street and somebody's coming at me with a knife, I really have a civic obligation to try to avoid that encounter and run away from him.
Yes.
When I'm cornered, I can use deadly force to defend myself. So that's already ridiculous. But we do have the Castle Doctrine where if somebody breaks into your house and you don't have a reasonable means of egress, you have kids in the house, you have elderly people in your house, yes, you can shoot that guy dead. Right? That's the Castle Doctrine. You don't have the obligation to run away in your own home. Right? But they say like, hey, look, but once the case goes to court and they're going to try to prosecute you, right? The bunch of lefties is going to probably find you guilty of something. By the way, we just gave Letitia James more power than God. Okay, you saw that bill?
No.
Not only did we set aside $10 million for her to use as a legal fund, but we just gave her the power to investigate anybody for anything without any cause.
Right.
Any company, any individual. If she doesn't like you, she
No
can investigate.
dictators.
It's a good thing I already met Michael Henry. He's running against Letitia James.
And hopefully he'll win this time.
God willing.
Yeah.
If she's in jail, maybe you'll help.
Actually, first the gym, then jail.
I'm sad to say that she went to the same high school as me. Yeah, she graduated about 10 years before me. Yeah.
I am one no.
Yes, sir.
Because I found out, because this is I see that about what happened when when a woman in the case got struck down in Ocean Parkway, I actually did disagree on that guy who tried to slow down the process because of a car. It's almost like similar to the gun control laws, which I used to put out there. Said they're gonna slow it down from 25 to 20, and the next thing's gonna be 15. I said that's gotta be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
In Albany, it's 20.
They keep on putting
I'm not
cameras.
saying
Yeah. And they have less traffic and less pedestrians.
You could literally get 5 tickets within a 2-block radius. There's
Yeah.
camera lights everywhere.
That's correct, and punishing the car is definitely the wrong thing to do. You know, it's like the gun rights activists, the gun ban activists, they constantly want to punish the gun. You know, I've been carrying a gun for 30-something years. Right? I've been playing around with the gun since I was a U.S. Marine, and you know what? Other than in a war, I never shot at anybody. I never shot anybody dead. You know, so do you blame the gun or do you blame the guy? You know, let's put the blame where the blame should go. Right?
There's also a lot more cameras that have gone up for both
And there's more coming.
for movers as well as red light cameras. Could we just propose doing away with them and just have more sector cars, getting more
We
movers
do,
every month
we do.
for aggressive drivers?
Sorry.
There are bills in there to
Because
get rid
I
of
see
those
very few
cameras.
sector cars
Yeah.
before, either scanning plates
Yeah.
for scout flaws, people that shouldn't be driving, that, like this woman that killed those
Yeah.
folks on Quet Road and Ocean Parkway a few months ago.
The
You
council
know what else
has,
they just did? I'll give you another thing. I'm sorry, Rob, give me a second.
Cameras.
You know what else they just did? They made it so that you can get a little logo on your driver's license to authorize you to enter a state park. Right? But what we asked for was get a little logo to authorize you to vote. Right? That's crazy. That's just crazy. Go ahead, Robert.
no, I just wanted to respond to what you said
No,
about the.
there's more cameras coming.
About the
There's
speed cameras.
legislation to do away with them. It's not going to pass.
But they have to be vote in the council this fall, right? Because that was right before the election.
Yeah.
But
So.
Senator, 50% of the profit goes to the contractor, 25% to the city, 25% to the state. That's crazy, we lose 50%.
Of course it's crazy. You know those slot machines? Did you know 25% goes to the state? But, right, there's one exception. They want to make, I don't know how it happened, right? We just passed a bill to let one particular Indian nation to have these slot machines where the state only get 5%. They're like, oh, what's the special treatment? Everybody else is paying 25. What's the nexus here? What's going on? Right? And we questioned them. They couldn't answer. They go, well, you know, 5% because you know, they go into a Kamala Harris speech. Well, like, so should we give, you know, all the other slot machine places the same break, right? 5%. So there's something going on over there. That, you know, of course, I sense corruption.
Senator,
Yeah.
on the sanitation, I've been hearing that they're going to be doing where apartment buildings going to have the big bins.
Yeah, that's crazy too.
In the street where cars would park. So where are all these cars going to be going? We're going to be losing all parking spots.
All to a-
Everywhere.
You don't notice that every single fire hydrant at night now is occupied by a car?
Because they don't
And this is a condition created by de Blasio and Eric Adams.
Exactly.
They could free up so much parking. Like, for instance, there's a city bike station going to 79th and Colonial Road. Well, who the hell is going to be there to rent the city bikes? 79th and Colonial Road. Does that make sense to you? And a half a block away is Shore Road. Why don't you put a concrete pad over there and put the bikes over there?
Right.
Right? So they just took away like 10 more spots. You know, things that does not make sense. Now, I'm not in the city council, but I do talk to Susan Chuang a lot. I talk to David Carr a lot. And, you know, I talked to Joanne Ariola, I talked to Vicky Palladino, I endorsed her for I love that woman. Hopefully, when her term is up, she'll run against Davisky in Whitestone, and maybe she can pick up that Senate seat if she feels up to it. And we got 3 other great candidates coming up. We have a retired police chief that wants to run against the guy, John Liu, who just endorsed Zandani. We have another retired police sergeant that wants to run against Ron Kim. We have a doctor that wants to run another race over there. And,
How many seats do we get to
I
pick
know,
up
yeah.
for that then?
Senate, 8.
8?
Eight. The governorship is easy already.
Yeah.
The last I checked, there's 12 city council seats that need to be filled that are running unopposed.
Unopposed?
Yeah, Democrats will just waltz into it.
Yeah. Well, don't forget Susan Chuang is a party, conservative party, right? So I know, listen, I know the woman, I do call her my friend. She's very rash at times. She has a hot temper. She's young. She's immature. She's impatient. But I'm telling you right now, the woman is good. She does like the cops. She bit my friend, Frank DiGiacomo. We went to the academy together, me and Frank. And I was there that day. I was on the other side of the street. By the time I came back, came running over, they were putting her in the police car. I'm like, what the hell did you do? I'm like, are you okay, Frank? Right? I know both of them very well. I'm trying to make peace between the two of them. Right? Susan Strong do like cops. She doesn't know how to speak. There was a female lieutenant that I am ashamed of down in the 6-1 precinct. And I told her off. I yelled at her, I screamed at her. Right? And I said, you came here to escalate situation. What the hell is the matter with you? I was cop to cop. I was cursing her out. And the cops thanked me for speaking like that to her because they hate her too. Right? And Susan Schwang was thinking of that woman when she was speaking up against the cops. She didn't know that not every cop is like that. You know the cops in the 6-2 precinct are great. You know, they took very good care of the residents down there that's protesting. Even the 6-1 guy, they all knew me. My office was in their precinct for 15 years. And they all told me, Steve, thank you for telling me the shit that we couldn't tell her. So Susan has the right idea. She doesn't like criminals. She really doesn't like illegal immigrants.
Did she really like Cuomo? I'm sorry.
Doesn't like Cuomo, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. One, her and Colton is trying to get rid of Zamdani.
Yes, I got it.
If you saw Colton, he endorsed Sliwa on the Republican side.
Just
Now,
yesterday.
I got to tell you this: me, Colton, Susan, and even Larry He and Lester Chang were very good friends. Right? If Sliwa wins, I can direct call to his office. We're very good friends. If Cuomo wins, Susan's got direct call to his office. They're very good friends. Is that a win-win? Yes, that is a win-win for South
You
Brooklyn.
gotta have,
That is a win-win for South Brooklyn. We can get what we want as long as one of them is a mayor. Right? And Sliwa, by the way, just said that he does plan on having the first Chinese deputy mayor. Could that be me? I'm sure it could. But would I take the job? No, I wouldn't. Right? It's a demotion. Right? But can I think of somebody that's great for that job? Yes, I can. Dr. Phil Wang.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Dr. Wang?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy has got such a level head.
Kenneth
you know.
Page is another one.
Yes, all right, and I guarantee you that one of them is going to be the deputy mayor if Curtis is the mayor. And those people are out there for the community. Dr. Wang has been a guardian angel for 40 years. He was there from the get-go, right? And he's a doctor. Right? This man sacrificed a lot.
yeah, he made a lot.
Imagine if this become a win, this will turn from defund the police into refund the police.
Absolutely. And the first thing we're going to do, look, listen, I'm not a statewide politician, right? I am a local politician. I'm up close, I'm personal. Look at me and you guys, right? I'm here, right? We got to change our little corner first. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't give a shit about Taiwan. I don't give a shit about Hong Kong and China, right? I know they try to call me a communist all day long, the New York Times. They try to, destroy my character. I go, what the hell's wrong with you? You're talking to a United States Marine that went to battle for America. I said, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm not talking to you. Get away from me. Right? And I told him that. He goes, well, don't you think Hong Kong should be independent? I said, look, one more time. I was born in British Hong Kong. I'm born with a British birth certificate. I said, Hong Kong, England, and China had a contract. That contract expired. Both sides honored it. The end. There's nothing to talk about. It's contract. Right? I said, listen, I'm not talking to you anymore. Because when he talks to me, he's always trying to paint every Republican Asian candidate as a communist. Lester Chang served 24 years in the Navy. I served 6 years in the Marines. I'm a cop 27 years. I have no time to be a communist. I had a small business. Right? I'm a small landlord, and by the way, they try to call me a slumlord. Right? It's been a year and a half calling me a slumlord. Never mind that, my little dark-skinned female Hispanic tenant, Lola, came out and says, what the hell are you talking about? Steve Chan hasn't raised my rent in 18 years because he knows I'm living on Social Security. Right? She came out and made a clip like that, and you know how touching that was for me? Right? I always took care of her. Right? And the other one made a clip too, right? With that said,
I'll take the appointment.
and I said to the people, look, if I'm a slumlord, don't you think one of my tenants would have said something about me by now? And none of them came out, right? So,
Yeah, so Before China turned communist in 1949, China leased out Hong Kong to Britain for 100 years.
That was 1897.
Yeah, from 1899 to 1997.
I believe it was 1897 to 1997.
Okay, so my point is, in communist economics, I don't think they have a concept of leasing or renting. Because before they were communists, they did, and Britain leased it for 97 years.
Yeah.
Now, if they would be willing to lease it, not to Britain, but to us for 99 years.
Then I get that.
No, I understand, but it might be a good middle solution, it might be a good compromise for all the talk of war, because I know they want to take it over, but I mean, before they were communists, they were willing to lease. So what I'm saying is, it just seems to me that perhaps a lease situation might quiet things down.
Well, Hong Kong is not the issue right now, Taiwan is.
Well, yeah, I understand.
Taiwan is. But Taiwan wants to be an independent country, but some of them...
Since
Look,
49.
Look, the Chinese people, 75 years ago, right, beat the crap out of each other, killed each other, there were millions of lives lost, right? Do we want that again between China and Taiwan? I don't want to see it, right? It would be similar to the Ukraine-Russian war, right? But that's foreign policy, that's got nothing to do with me. I'm worried about South
No, I
Korea.
understand. I just thought that this might be a good forum for me to bring that up.
It could, yeah, it could, because they always asking me about it, because, you know, I'm Chinese, and I think that's ridiculous, you know, I think that, you know, I've lived most of my life over here, I've been over here since I was 11 years old, I'm here 50 years, and you know, I love South Brooklyn. This is my neighborhood, I love my neighbors, I know a lot of people over here, I love my students, my parents over here, you know, all the neighbors. You know, one thing is for certain though, we are a strong neighborhood, and all the neighbors are getting together and coming to our senses, and we're like, this is BS, so, you know, we're not living for this. Yes, sir.
Yeah, regards to the landlord situation, I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a three-family house, and I know it's mostly on the city level that they keep on putting these ridiculous
Yeah.
restrictions, like I have to have a lead paint inspection.
Yeah.
So it cost me $925, not the city inspector coming to my house, because
Yeah.
I'm required to have the idiot come to my house.
Yeah.
That's $925 I had to pay, plus the town lead in 120-something.
Of course, yeah.
And I live in the house. It's a regular peaked roof house.
Okay.
It's not a building, but
Right.
anyone who owns a three-family and up, it's apparently an apartment building according to these morons.
Yeah.
So now I,
Well, every house needs it, even one family.
What he's trying to say is every week,
Yeah.
I know I'm in the business,
always
they're
report.
putting in new legislation
I know.
from the lead to the gas piping
Right.
tests.
I know.
To the landlord-tenant court, like you're a landlord,
I
and
know.
I'm an HPD receiver where the city hired me against my wishes, and to evict somebody is 2 years, which is pure wrong. You need to, and those judges are your state judges.
I know.
We gotta change.
You think I voted for any one of them to be there?
No, but the legislation has to be changed,
Yeah.
that within 90 to 120 days, this has to be resolved and it can't be.
need Republicans in there for that to change.
Yeah, we need to take the Senate
If
back.
the Democrats are psychotic. they
That's
don't have-
true, because
they're
the
not-
Democrats has the majority and they can do what they want. That's the hard
It's
part.
it's like they're having a race to see who can be more far to the
It's
left.
disgusting. So,
You know,
so,
yeah.
so they said, they quoted me, the company, to eradicate all the lead paint, it would cost me $60,000.
And it's gonna,
Not
in the
paying.
year 2030, it's gonna cost you another 60,000 to retrofit your house to electric heat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, when my boiler phone
There's a
dies.
war on, like I
When will
said,
it end?
you see, remember when this goes back to me saying there's senators up there who brags about being an illegal immigrant, who brags about helping illegal immigrants. There's nothing that would make her happier than watch you and your house go down in the dumpster value, make it like Detroit, where the city's giving it away for $1.
Right.
So her people can take your house. And
No, it's
it is our civic duty to stop that. That's what I'm here for.
That's where that's where the power of the people has to come in and take that channel and energy to go to the polling stations.
So is there anything you could do on the state level? I know it's mostly.
There's a
city.
lot we can do on the state level, but I have to be able to outvote the Democrats.
I know, it's
That's the problem. Yes, we can. Yeah, can we pass a law that says, you know, forget this lead inspection, cancel it, repeal it? Yes, we can.
Oh,
Right?
maybe.
State law always trumps city law.
So would that
Right?
only require
Yeah.
the state senate and the governor, or the assembly has to be in the mix?
All three.
Okay, we'll never get a.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, and we have, and we will, right? Because we can use leverage. If the assembly wants something and the Senate passes it,
Right.
and we have a Republican governor, we say, hey, listen, you want this bill, you want this money,
That's true.
right? Pass this.
I hope so.
That's, yeah.
Because we're all like on the brink of leaving.
I know.
It's disgusting.
I know.
Every day I curse.
If you leave right now, you're a millionaire.
Because, I'll give you an example. I'm not from New York, actually. I came over from New Jersey, and I'm also part member of the Brooklyn Tea Party. And I ran for office 3 times. I ran for the state assembly twice, and I also ran for Congress once.
Did you come close?
Only the assembly, I won about 15.2% of the vote. For Congress, I didn't make a ballot. And also the same thing with the assembly.
Did you try it here yet? Did you try it here yet? We need you.
Because I wish, but,
You don't have to move here like Simcha Feld, you just gotta take a pop.
Yeah.
well, I understand what's going on because it's the same issue we have back home. They still have to, we've been under Democratic majority for 20 years in the legislature. And this is the same problem we've seen because no matter what solution is found, the majority always keep getting everything what they needed. And they pass bills like a smooth butter.
How much you guys know the senator right here? I'm actually outside my district right now, by a block, right? The senator here is Kevin Parker. Yeah.
I ran against him in 2008.
Did you guys check his?
I had a chance of having a Republican governor in Jersey now.
Yes.
Kevin Parker.
Then
This is
you
not
do.
Samsung, right? Kevin
Cheater
Parker.
out.
Is, no, not Foster Avenue. He starts I-J all the way down to
You take a look at Kevin Parker's arrest record.
He's always the absentee senator.
And that's why the laws are the way it is.
Yeah.
Now
Well, he
he's
quashed the energy bill.
sponsored.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to address something you've been talking about for a while. We've,
Yeah.
for years, been active with the Brooklyn Tea Party, and Glenn and the other guys and girls that are here do a hell of a job. We're trying to get people involved, and I know some of these folks have run for local office. And I'm a long life Brooklynite. I'm one of 4 children that stayed. Everybody right after college.
Thank you. Yeah.
They left this area just for greener pastures or whatever, but I stayed. I'm here in the same part in the South Brooklyn Midwood, and I look at a lot of the new people that I've met, some whom I know come from the heartland, that are replacing the older residents that are here at gentrification. And a lot of these people, they come from red states or more conservative, and they're coming here and they're voting extreme, especially the younger people that I've met, white people from the heartland. They're voting against their best interest in a lot of things. And I look at all these different assemblies as well as Senate seats. It's attainable in certain neighborhoods
Yes.
of Queens and Brooklyn.
Yes.
Why the hell is there such a big difference if you look at all these different districts? Why can't they win? I mean, people like Marty Golden, great guy, guess you know him, lost. There's no logical reason for that. If you just look for the common sense and things like that, even if...
Well, Heshie will tell you.
Right.
He'll tell you why.
So I said, what is going on?
You gotta come on my show, I gotta fight with you.
I mean, this, this, and
I want
it's,
you to
but,
know, out of my 21 foster kids, 2 of them are Muslim, 1 of them is Asian, well, half Asian, and she loves me more than all of them combined.
and but a lot of these people, if you look at them, regardless of what their background is they're even voting against their best interest just because they'll
Because
see
it's the cool thing to do.
No, they're seeing a D next to someone's name.
You know-
They
you
want to
know-
get the person, like Mamdani, we're talking about this guy,
Yeah.
young guy,
Yeah.
to the far left. And they have to call them out on it, not be scared. I don't care what your background is, to be called names, to speak out of principle and common sense. Because, look,
Donnie's not gonna win.
I'm not, right, I agree with you, I don't believe that he is, but it sets a bad precedent for the future.
It absolutely does.
Because I look at the future generations, the Gen Z and
You
beyond
know,
that.
I did some door knocking over in Kensington area.
And it's not only gonna affect New York City,
I found myself
it's
hiding
affecting all these other cities.
What happened?
I found myself hiding unpopular in Kensington.
I live in Kensington.
Yeah.
Where were you in Kensington?
I knocked on all the doors over there, and I left my door hangers and everything. But a lot of people just hated me because I'm Republican.
Right.
Disgusting. With a lot of-
And these people, they're 5, 10 generation Americans.
Yeah.
They're coming from the heartland, from Indiana, from Ohio, from Texas.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know some of these people.
They still
like that.
email me.
I can't even discuss
They call me a
politics
racist, they
with
call me a
them.
slumlord, they call me all kinds of names.
They have hatred in their heart.
They
I
do.
run the Kensington
Okay,
Facebook page.
folks, I'm sorry, it's 3 o'clock, I have a next event in New Jersey. apparently I'm pretty popular over there too. It's a pleasure.
I gave you a cold bottle of water.
No, this was it. No, thank you for having me, folks.